covers millennial, brown, migrant women issues and just topics, everyday topics. And today's topic is not controversial, very hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, so we don't know what to call it, but we are going to try talking about it because it did spark something between us and a discussion for us. It's the idea of purpose of life, right?
Yes.
And we will go, and it was instigated by this post that we both found recently. And we will discuss about it. But before we do that, let's go to the silver lining moment for this week.
Well, I had so many silver lining moments that every time it happened and I'm like, oh my God, this is my silver lining. But then I had to pick one, and that was that this week, every time I've had to cook, it was such a grown-up moment that all I did was come in the backyard, pick my curry leaves, pick my mirchi, and use it. I felt like an adult. I felt like a grown-up doing that. Oh my God, it was so satisfying doing it.
Yeah.
So that was my silver lining.
Yes, I am a big believer of having curry leaves from your backyard because I was having a full conversation with Athar and a few friends where I said, being a South Asian personally, I just refuse to buy curry leaves from a grocery store. I cannot accept it. It just doesn't, I cannot eat that curry leaf. I don't know. It's just something about, I would, I'll go to people's houses. I will, if I see a curry leaf tree, I will even pinch a few leaves.
Remember we went to Fitzroy?
Yeah, so there's a if you live in Melbourne, there's actually a tree on Brunswick Street in Fitzroy, and it's a house where it's in the front yard and it's huge curry leaf
like
tree.
People alone. Not people like people like people just.
Yeah, and I don't think the person who lives there knows what gold they have there because it's always full. We tried knocking once, but no one came, and so we took some leaves. But I would do that in comparison to buying curry leaves. I just cannot accept it. My South Indian person just does not let me do it. But anyway, that's something we have. Silver lining for me for this week. I think it's a great reflection point when I start thinking about it and I'm like, oh, so what is it and how did my week go? For me, it would be yesterday where I was, it was a bit like every day is busy, but it was a day where it was a public holiday here. Tuesday was the first day coming into the week. There was a lot of things in my background on Monday and over the weekend, like not really thinking about it, but more like I will deal with this when I open my calendar on Tuesday. And I did few work things, few personal things, few other things, and was able to tick off everything on the list, which was a really good feeling by the end of it. Yes, and it wasn't big things, but it was just these teeny things just that I've just been like, oh, I'll do it later, or I'll do it when I have time. But I was able to sit through and do it all and tick all the boxes, and it was a brilliant feeling for about 10 minutes, and then I went and saw the big pile of clothes on the brown sofa, and I was like, okay, this doesn't end. But anyways, that was a good feeling.
Let me ask you, did that list come again this morning? Or was it just done and dusted? Never to
that list is gone for now. I'm sure there's more, but for that bits, they're all done, they're sorted, and that was a good thing.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yes.
That is such an achievement. I know. In my mental list, whenever I have that and it gets ticked off, it is such a elated feeling.
And it's these niggling things that you just have to do, but you just haven't had the opportunity in your day to day, but you want to do it, you need to do it, and stuff like that. So it was a good feeling. Yeah, so that's my silver lining. And now to start with the topic, and it's a big, deep question, right? The purpose of life. We're not going to touch that. We are talking about the idea of the purpose of life and where is that shaped from, and what does that mean, right? I will read out something that Atha recently sent me. It's by this really famous comedian, Veer Das. If you're someone who's into stand-up comedy, or even like, I'm sure you've heard of Veer Das. If you haven't, go Google him. He does say some really interesting stuff. So I will read something he's written and then we will discuss from there. Sounds good? So, I've lived in Dehradun, Lagos, Delhi, Noida, Galesburg, Chicago, Boston, Alabama, Prague, New York, Goa, and Mumbai. I've never owned a home. I still don't. Is that fucked up? By any Indian metric, of common sense, I have missed the bus on adulting. I have zero roots, no safety net, no security. However, I can pack up and leave tomorrow. I'm debt free and obligation free. Some would call this zero shackles too. I don't own anyone a goddamn thing. Depending on who you are, I have either seriously messed up my life or avoided a messed up life. It really depends on what you think the word means, the word home means, and leaving it at that.
I think the question here, or he's posed the question in itself there, that do you think it is a messed up life or he's avoided a messed up life?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that's a very, very deep, it is a deep question where your answer can be either evolved or it could be deep rooted, what you've learned over the years or centuries or has passed down generations.
Yeah, I mean, he said it in a really good way in the sense of like when we grow up in our household, we have been taught what does a good life mean, or you see it around you, or there is that expectation, not maybe from your parents, but the world around you, where you got to do a certain. If you're a man, there's a certain roles and roots or something you're given. As a woman, there is other roles and things that you give or you think about. And a lot of time people question it if they're not going in that path. Am I doing the right thing? But also, it's changing now. I feel like with generations, what that role or what that life you're living, is it fucked up or is it you actually doing a good job by not getting into that craziness and living?
I think he's actually missed on the messed up life. I think nomadic way is a way to live your life. There is, and I think it also, my upbringing has been very much different to the normal, like the traditional upbringing, where it is like by this stage you should be having these many degrees, by this stage you should be on the exec level job or these many properties. I have not had exposure to that. Our focus has been completely, my family's upbringing and everything, the focus has been completely different, where it is very much like you just focus on one thing. Faith is your point to go, meditation and being humble, and then doing that is what you should be good at. Materialistic things, money, anything else that we cast as security should not be your one of the worries.
Yeah, but is it just money though? Like, I mean, I feel like it's different.
That's
one thing, but for women specifically, it's not even materialistic things. The expectations are very different.
It's a security that comes with the materialistic things. Security otherwise doesn't come without the money.
Absolutely, but I also feel like the expectations at some point for a woman is, you get married or have a child, or like it's a different set of expectations. In our society, at least till now, it's changing, where the man has been the provider and he is the one who's actually responsible for bringing in the material. So I feel like the upbringing also is impacted by that.
100%. And for the women, it is like, yes, you are to get married and bear a certain number of children by a certain age, but then to do that, you need to find a husband. To find the husband, you need to have these certain security points before you have or you attain that husband. And in the past, it used to be like that person has to have a government job. That's not the criteria anymore. But I think what I'm more interested in is moving forward. Are we unlearning it, or are we still making that as a subconscious pillar to aim towards?
Oh well, I think we making the pillars different, but we still not unlearning it. So, for example, we talking about coming into Australia as migrants, right? And I would say if you're a migrant, I feel like migrants have a very higher drive to get houses and get investment. Like it's almost like that financial drive is very strong.
You know what it is? Sorry to cut you. It's like when we came to Australia, there was different things. For example, the first competition was, are you a permanent resident?
Yeah.
After that, it was, are you a citizen?
Yep. Yeah.
How did you get your citizenship or permanent residency through? That was a hierarchy question. Once you've gotten it, then what kind of a job do you do? That's another hierarchy. Then how many houses? Then how many cars? Is it the brand new or is it like the pre-owned? Now the thing is, do you own Range Rover or G-Wagon? If you don't, then you have not succeeded in your life. But how many hours are you spending to be able to afford that to show but not living life is really beyond me. Like I have met few people who have so many, like the portfolio is so huge, but they've not traveled outside of Melbourne and India. And I question those choices, that is that really living your life by attaining those steps?
But that's what I mean. It's the idea of purpose of life, right? It's at some point our conditioning is a big part of it, where we are, we're taught to like, you got to be secure in finance, especially if you're from a middle class family. That's something you go. But I also feel like other people as well. But the other thing is also about this whole the idea of success. Are you successful if you have one, two, three, or are you successful if you travel the world and do that? Like it's that definition. If it's a typical like what Veda said about, is it a messed up life if you don't do it, or is it a messed up life? I feel like it's also a difference between millennials and Gen Zs at some point, because it is changing. The trajectory is changing. Because I do see a lot of Gen Zs not being so bothered with a lot of things that maybe.
And yeah, and I want to
But
actually.
it comes out of privilege.
Yes, yes. And I think is it actually privilege, or is it just the choices that they have with the modern world? They have their own struggles, I'm sure, which I don't know about.
Yes, absolutely. But it also is the. I'm only talking about the, a lot of Gen Zs who have the privilege of not being worried about, certain things that other people may have, the generation before them.
Oh, I think no.
But they have their own struggles. I'm not saying they don't. For example, you and me have spoken about this.
Yeah.
The different, like, living life.
Yeah.
Right? I have said that for me, it doesn't matter if it's about earning money or not. Yes, I do think to enable things, you do need financial security. That's my thought. Because if you don't have it, you're always in a scarcity mindset. And if you're in the scarcity mindset, you don't really get to do things. So you got to be financially savvy enough to do it. How you be financial savvy, that's up to you.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to, especially in this country, or I would say a lot of Western countries, you don't have to think of what job you're doing. Right? Yes, the level of earning may differ, but you could be fine. But for me, passion is really important, personally. I think whatever you do, you got to enjoy what you're doing or have some kind of contentment in that space. So that's how I've driven my life, right? My ambition is not to do with how much money I earn. Financial security comes, but it also comes because I enjoy what I do, and because what I do gives me money. It works both ways.
So we had this different opinion or views over the passion in life. Manisha's funda is that you have to have something that you're passionate about that you're doing, right? My look on that is that you have to have that inner peace more than passion. It's okay not to have passion. If you are watching, like being a couch potato and binging Netflix and have that, like the very zen mindset, I think you're nailing, you're acing the life. You don't actually have to have a passion. It's okay not to have passion, I feel. As long as you're okay, you're happy in that moment. But if you're sitting on the couch, binge watching, and thinking about, like, oh shit, I'm such a failure because I don't have a passion, or I'm just sitting here doing that is looked down upon, that's wrong. If you have the desire and you're not doing something about it, then that's bad. But if you don't even have a desire, if you're happy and zen in that moment, having no passion, I think is okay.
I'm not saying it's passion in every moment. I'm talking about passion, also doing something. Like, for example, we do spend a lot of time in in spaces that give you financial, money, or you work. A lot of people spend a lot of work in work, right? Employment, business, or whatever that means. But if you're doing that at some point, but I'm sure like there are lots of jobs out there and you can earn money, but if you're doing that because that gives you money, perfect, that's great. But how are you engaging yourself beyond that? Is like what you said was, it's fine, you can continue doing that because if you're content, that's fine. For me, I think it's more about drive, and I feel like you gotta do something you love. Not in work is fine if that gives you money, but something else in life, right? If it's music, keep doing music, keep making music while you're doing that. If it's dance, do dance. If it's writing, it's writing.
And if binge watching Netflix, I think even that's fine. That's okay to have that passion if you are into, like, say, but I feel like just because you're expected to have it, I don't think that's the right pressure to put on yourself either. Like, if you, I know at one stage, I did not have a passion. I did not have a drive. I tried to enjoy working so much that I was like, oh my God, everyone has something. I'm good at nothing. I'm not creative. I am not, like, I don't have any passion, so I might as well make work my everything. I've done that, but did it serve me any purpose? Yeah, my work ethics were great. I did do really well, and that's okay. I don't regret it, but I don't like the pressure that I had self-inflicted, that I must have it. Now I have something, like, I love the workout, the gym that makes me feel, that's my passion. But if you take that away, I don't have anything as such in life that is quite passionate. Traveling, yes, but I think traveling is also sort of like a reward that I give myself after working hard at work. But is it passion? Am I passionate about something all the time? Sometimes I think, like, people read books and I find them like, oh, they are so intellectual, they're so good, they can read books. And I try to get into it. Sometimes I'm into it. I surprise people with reading, I can't read, but again, I feel like that's just the pressure, that the pre, like, determined notion that this is how it should be. So I don't think you have to have a drive. I don't think you have to have a passion. You are perfectly fine doing your everyday things just fine.
Yeah, if as long as you
Even if it is just expected of you and you just have to do it, it's okay, do it. But I have to say that the one thing that I do is that I try to do like, even the mundane things with some integrity.
Because I think, and I heard this somewhere where it was about, and I'm not, there's no question about, I watch shows and I watch things and, spend a lot of time doing that. But it's that question about, if, for example, if I die tomorrow, like, and if I'm asked the question, did you live your life? Did you really live your life? And then I look back. I mean, at some point, I just need to be content and, like, yeah, I did all these things, or I did not do all what.
But so far, have you lived your life?
Yes.
Me too.
And I think that's fine. But if at some point, that comes from that internal questioning of where I am, what I'm doing. Do I feel content in that? Or am I just doing it because I have to pay the bills and that's it? And that's what, like, I'm not saying not everyone has to question, but it does. In the end, it's a connection, like what you're saying about contentment, or which we're not. We all go through our moments of feeling content and not feeling content. I think that's part of who we are as humans, but it's also about, because if you don't question yourself at some point and you keep going, I feel like, is that enough?
Yeah, no, at that point, I completely agree that you need to question yourself. You need to be curious to be able to grow.
Yeah, growth and
If you're not
change
curious, then you're not
is
growing.
part of life, and being stagnant, personally, for me, is not enough, right? And I would say that's, if you read a lot of books or you talk about things, it is, growth is part of life, and I think that's what it is. But then a lot of people will say growth is about financial growth, and I'm doing really amazing about it. But is it about financial growth, or is it about, if you talk about life, it's about, in the end, it's about person, right?
But with financial growth, I have to point this out, that financial growth is also very important, especially for women, because that's how they will feel a lot more empowered and independent. Because for many centuries, for a very long time, especially brown women, have relied on other people, like their husbands or their fathers, for the finances, and they couldn't make any decision in their life. So to be able to do that, having the financial security, you have your own say on your own table. So that is definitely a growth as well.
It is, and I think that's part of conditioning, right? At some point, it's that's what I said, financial security, and that may come through investments at some point, or land, like, and that's why maybe I even sometimes I'm like, do I agree with what Vidas is saying? It's not about having a house, but it is in my head about financially making things happen for yourself, because if you don't, then you are in a space where you don't feel as empowered. Right? And that's where the difference comes in. Like, I don't, but he's talking about making homes, and I'm not talking about having a house. I agree, you could whatever and do whatever. It's a definition of it, but I do think that financial having a bit of financial security or money does make things happen for you. And for that, you do need to work hard. For that, it does messes up your life because you are challenging yourself to create that.
Yeah,
like you don't have a life without mess.
Yeah, 100%. Mess is where your life is lived.
And that's my thought. Like, I feel like if you don't mess up your life, then not mess, but if you don't complicate things by investing or doing things, at some point you are not going to reap some of the benefits of life or being able to make choices and have
But that's
opportunities.
again up to an individual. But because, for example, if we are driven and our children or the third friend is not driven, that's their choice.
That also comes from privilege. I just think why? Because if your roti kapra makan is sorted,
Yeah.
that's if you think about US, right?
Yeah.
A lot of spiritual growth, or a lot of even the gurus or whatever went to US instead of here, because in India it doesn't make sense because people are looking at the basics, whereas like Australia, I feel like Gen Zs or the kids, our kids at some point come from a lot of privilege where they don't have to think about PR when they come into this country. They don't have to do a lot of things. Like my journey of who I am today is because I had to work towards something to be able to get something, which has shaped me into who I am. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing is, I think every generation is privileged to the previous generation. I was told when I was growing up that you're very privileged, and I do take that. But then, did that stop me from growing? Not really. I had my own struggles. In comparison to, say, my siblings who were a lot older than me, I was told time and time that I'm privileged. Our children 100% are privileged. Like, I talked to my other friend whose son travels with us. One day we were like, I had not sat on a plane until I was like teenager. And these kids have traveled almost like half of some of the countries they've traveled to. So privileged. But that's what we're giving them. That's what our parents. So their next generation, their kids are going to say the same thing. Like, oh, they are privileged. So I think privilege, every generation is privileged.
Yes, but it's also you came here and then you had to work hard.
That was a choice.
It was, but you came here and then you had to kind of almost create that world of financial security, everything for yourself, right? Yes, you had the push from the family or the privilege to be able to do that to come here. What I'm saying is, if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of things, when your food and makan and like only then do you go higher into your spiritual being. And I think that is why a lot of next generation is able to at some point maybe either be content or maybe not even from my point be driven to not do things that maybe I have done.
I don't think they're content. I think they have their own struggles. We just don't know about it. I think the priorities are different. Our priority, it was instilled us that काम करना है, काम के ethics ऐसे हैं, ये है, वो है. Their priorities are a lot different. They may not be content. They may have their own struggles, but their priorities are different. I think that hierarchy to some degree will still apply to them, not majority, because we want to nurture our kids, we want to give them the best, but they have their own struggles.
Yeah, I'm not saying content in the sense of life. I mean content in the sense of they don't have to struggle for the basics of, setting up their life in a new country. Here, I'm not. If they travel somewhere else.
But then in India, that was our choice of pushing it and coming here, right?
Yeah.
Because our needs were met in India.
Yeah.
They are still young. Maybe they'll fly off and they would.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is.
If they don't, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like one day, Gyan said to me, he was like, I don't want to go to uni. It struck me. And I'm like, what? Why would you not? Because in my head, like you do school, you do uni, and then you go on do things. He's like, I just don't want to go uni. First of all, still 5 years to go. Secondly, then I question myself, that's so what? Yeah. Things have changed now. So what if he doesn't want to go to uni? If he doesn't want to follow the traditional ways? I had to tell myself that it's okay not to worry about it because at the end of the day, once he is like 19, 20, if he wants to fund his hobbies, he needs to find a way. I'm not doing
so
that. So
your parenting or your thought is at that age, if he's able to financially sustain himself?
Absolutely. And then who am I to say that he should go to uni or not?
If he's not able to financially sustain them.
No, he will. He has to because I'm not going to nurture him after that. And I know that's a bold statement coming from an Indian, but no way. And I'm going to stand by that. Of course, my heart is always going to be like, oh, let me protect him. But I'm going to be that bird who pushes the little chucha off the nest. No, but I'm going to be there as a safety net. But will need to fund his own hobbies, his own, I'm not saying that I'm going to deprive him of roti, kapda, and makan. I'll fund him, but anything extra, he needs to work hard. Yeah. Would you need jai, not my problem.
And I think, you see, it's a hard one, and I don't have the right. I mean, there's no right or wrong. Everyone has their own way of living it. Personally, yes, for me, it's that questioning of your own purpose of life, because that is, I feel like it's an inherent part of every human being. How we look at it is different, but it is. And I think it's about, and it's shaped by who we are surrounded by and our upbringing and stuff at some point in the conditioning of where do you want, which direction do you want to go to. I was saying to someone yesterday, like when I was growing up, there was a time when my father thought I wouldn't even pass my class 10th, right? But today I'm thinking about studying ahead, did my master's, which is unbelievable if I had thought about 15 years ago, even for myself or for my parents for that matter. But I did. But I didn't find my path in my 20s, right? I did what I was doing and it shaped because of being but it was not like, this is what I want to be and I'm going to get there. It was shaped by my experiences and I'm 37 now, so it's taken a while to, and I still am not there. I don't think it's an ever-changing space, right? Yeah. And I think that is what it is, because the other part of it I feel is the pressure of finding something to work towards in your younger years also makes it really hard to make decisions, which also I see a lot of young people struggling. And I always feel like saying to them, it's okay, it's fine. You will be fine, right? If you want to be a skydive instructor in this European country, go and do it. It's fine. You'll find your path. Like, that doesn't mean that will be it for you. But it's that, so it is that keep going, keep exploring, and,
I think it is. I think I would like to end this with the thought that it's about being nomadic and evolving. Nomadic with your choices of where you want to live. If that's what you want to do, go for it. And even evolving.
Change.
Very
Change
important
is
to
part
evolve.
of.
If that struck me a chord when Jan said no uni, I was able to sit down, reflect, and tell myself it's okay. If I had stuck to the guns of like, no, the traditional way is this, then there's no I haven't evolved, and it would have just been harder for me in that moment of something that would or would not happen in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I think I agree. It's about change.
It's about acceptance. Like if someone said to our parents, or we said to our parents, we want to take gap year, they would have been like, my parents wouldn't have cared. My parents did not even know what class I was in, what was I doing in uni. I don't think they still know what I do for work. So that's how freeing about this whole thing is. But
that's only the career part of it. I feel like there are other parts of your life that they may be more concerned or being.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just had different expectations of you, and that's like, I don't think you can just say that was it. Like maybe because I feel like as women though, that materialistic, ambitious thing is something that's coming up in the newer generations. In the generations before, that wasn't instilled, and that's why we didn't have that pressure at some point, right? Of you got to be this, you got to be that.
No, do you know, even like forget about the class what I was in. I remember because my brother is so much older than me, and I was in I think grade 2 or 3. He went to my school principal at the time, and all he said was, "I just want Atta to know English. I just want her to know how to speak English." And he went above and beyond to not put me in the school in the village. He took me to the city school. He had all the choices he did all the research of what schools I should be going to. And I remember when I moved to Delhi or even to Chandigarh, I did not know any of English. I would look at people, their faces, and I would be like, what are they talking? I have no idea. So that's all they had any ambition for me. Yeah. So in that time, if I had said like I want gap year, they wouldn't have given a shit about it.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah, but then many Indians would have given a shit. They would not allow gap year. But if our kids come to us and ask us, or say that we want to take a gap year, we would not bat an eyelid. Yeah. We would be.
I did say to my parents that I wanted to get a gap year.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think my parents are quite alternative, but I don't know, got worried for a bit.
Yeah.
I did actually take a gap year by the end of it, but I did want to go to this place in somewhere in India where I had to. It was a space where you were learning almost the olden way of living. So,
Yeah.
chakki pisna and making things. And my mother still makes fun of me saying she wanted to go and piece a chakki there. What is your problem? I think that's absolutely fine. But they really were like, what? What are you doing? And I mean, that was what got me to come to Australia. Because I refused. I refused to go to a university. And I said, I'm not going to college in India where I have to do nothing.
Yeah.
And learn nothing. I'm not interested. And I think
think
that's what
age
got
of
me
learning
coming.
is this year, like this age, when you actually understand the concept. But we can touch on that in
Yeah.
our next episode.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for listening to us. I
Yeah.
mean, you
I just want to say age of learning, I think, is forever.
yes.
But we will come to it because I have something really important, just like something I want to talk about about learning. But anyways, we're gonna end this episode for today. Thank you everyone for listening to us. Please follow us on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube channels. Please share it with your friends and come back to us with more topics.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time.